We are live, Josh. Welcome, everybody, to this New Year's edition of the Sports Generals. This is our first episode of the new year. So welcome to 2022, gentlemen. How are you?
I'm great. Great. How you guys doing?
It feels weird to be back at All Sports Cleveland Studios here at Ohio Media School and not have my two fellow generals with me.
Sorry, but due to
I'll be there next week.
health and safety protocols, we are at home. So that's why we're doing a StreamYard today. Sorry that we're all not in the same room, but it's going to be fun to do it like this. We did it like this last week. We had some people join in, participate in the chat. It was a lot of fun. So I am excited to do it this way personally. And
it's the same content. You know, everybody going to still see what we'll do in the studio. It's just, you know, we bear with us, guys. That's all we say.
Yeah, for sure. So I say we start with the stuff we want to get out of the way. So why don't we start talking about the Cleveland Browns and that game we just played against the Pittsburgh Steelers?
What was there a game on Monday? I couldn't tell.
Man, it sure don't feel like it was. It was brutal, man. It showed, I guess. It illustrated how the season was. If the season was a picture, Baker getting pummeled in the field, that's it. Mm-hmm. It was terrible, tough to watch.
The play calling questionable again. You got Nick Chubb averaging 14 yards a carry practically, and then they stopped giving him the ball. There's a lot of talk about the play calling and, you know, Baker throwing the ball so much that game. And there's a lot of speculation that maybe Coach Stefanski is basically saying, hey, you know, go out there and prove yourself. If you think you can make the plays, I'll call them for you. I'll let you have the chance to show that you're the guy. And he did what he's done all year, and he laid an egg. So
sabotaging him and sabotaging our team. No, it's a lot of work all year that goes into the season. And it seems like it's an agenda that Stefanski, for whatever reason, is trying to prove. And quite frankly, the act is tired. It's played out.
Yeah. So let me ask you guys this. Based off of how this season has gone, does that make last year a fluke?
There's some fluky numbers about last season. We were 7-2 in games that were within one score. That's huge. You know, if some of those would have swung the other direction, we're talking about a completely different year last year. So there's an argument to be made there that maybe we overperformed last season. We also had a negative point differential, which for a team that, you know, with our record to have a negative point differential, it was pretty alarming. You know, it meant the games we were losing, they weren't close. And so, yeah, I mean, it's an interesting conversation. I think we definitely, some of us anyway, rated them too high this season. And, you know, maybe they were good on paper, but, you know, this season they had every opportunity to prove that, you know, they were the team to beat in the AFC North, and they failed time and time again. And at the end of the day, I think it's came down to the quarterback play.
Yeah.
It feels like that happens just about every time you put expectations on this team. Go back and look at 2019. You know, we hire Freddie Kitchens as the head coach based off of, you know, his success that he had as interim offensive coordinator in 2018. We make all these moves. We're on like 4 or 5 prime games and whatnot. And we go 6-10, 0-4 against the NFC West, 3-1 against the AFC East. I don't remember what our record was against the division off the top of my head. But then we also went 0-2 against the teams who finished in the same place as us in the standings, which was the Titans and the Broncos.
Right.
You know, this is what I will say, guys. I wouldn't say that it's a fluke because, again, we have the talent. And regardless of, you know, the record with us versus being down by 8 points in the last 24 games. We got the talent, and from the eye test alone, I've seen us physically dominate the majority of these games that we were in. We need that one element that separates us, and that pretty much takes us over the top. And I'm very hard on Joe Woods. I'm very hard on him. For those that's not sure who Joe Woods is, that's the defensive coordinator for the Cleveland Browns. I'm very tough on him because we got power. I believe that we should be ranked top 3 in both passing and defense and scoring, but that's a high stretch. But regardless, we're still in every single game. We can't put the points up to capitalize over the turnovers that we receive, or just simply force our will on teams. We can't do that, and there is a glaring piece that signify why this is happening, because it's not a fluke. We got the talent. The talent gonna get you so far, coaching get you so far, but then you need that other element, and that's the quarterback, gentlemen.
Yeah, I agree with you, Jason. This defense should have been a lot better this season. On paper, they had, they have a lot of stars on that side of the ball. And I think that I would agree with you there. That was the part of last year that wasn't fluky. That unit was playing pretty well. The other thing that we had last year that worked to our advantage is our offensive line was healthy for a majority of the season.
Absolutely.
And that's rare in the NFL. Offensive line injuries are frequent. They happen to every team. That's why, I don't want to use that as an excuse for the way the Bakers played. But the line has not performed like they did last season, and that's been in large part due to health. And I think that that's a regression that could have been expected. So, yeah, there's some elements of that team last season that were like, sure, this should be a playoff team, and they looked like it at times. But it didn't carry over. It definitely didn't carry over into this season. And I think you're onto something with Joe Woods there. It's like if you have the talent and you have the guys and they're not, they're just not performing, it looks bad on the coaching staff is all I'm going to say.
I think sorry.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
I think part of it too is we've been using the same defensive scheme for so long, like
predictable.
Yeah. And you can even make the same argument for the offense, which is that, like, once you have success with something over a season, do you think the opponents are just going to be like, okay, we're not going to make any adjustments. We're just going to let them do what they did last year? No.
Why should they? Yeah.
Right. And what did we see every team do that we played against? We saw them stack the box and force us to try to throw the ball downfield. And when you do that, though, you open up the field for some big plays, and like you make yourself very vulnerable to an offensive explosion, and it didn't happen for the Browns once this season.
Also, I want you guys to take this into consideration. So, not only does that happen, when when the teams are stacking the box, right, and we know as fans, the opponents see this. Everyone sees this, right? So if the guy that's calling the plays, you would in this, why is he still allowing Baker Mayfield to have? He's injured. He can't. He's clearly not the same guy that he was last year. It's evident, and you're still putting your team in the same position to fail, and it's hair scratching, man. It's extremely frustrating.
It is.
It definitely is, but I feel like Stefanski's hands are tied a little bit, to be frank with you, in that, Kevin Stefanski and Andrew Berry, and for that matter, they kind of walked into this situation. Like, Baker Mayfield was not Andrew Berry's guy. Baker Mayfield was not Kevin Stefanski's guy.
True.
Baker Mayfield was John Dorsey.
Right.
John Dorsey, the former general manager of the Browns and the constructor of this juggernaut that we call the Kansas City Chiefs.
He died for our sins.
Yeah.
He did.
and Baker Mayfield was Hugh Jackson's guy.
Mm-hmm.
So in that aspect, yeah, Stefanski's hands were tied. But
actually, he wasn't Hugh Jackson's guy. The story is Hugh Jackson wanted Deshaun Watson. He was forced by upper management to go with Baker, and he even tried not to start him at the beginning of the season and ended up having to put him in. So
yeah, I mean, we avoided a whole other list of problems by not going that route, but at the time, you know, at least on the eyeball test, he got it right. You know, so yeah, it's a tough situation, and I honestly don't know what the answer is going forward. And Josh, you said something earlier about, you know, when this team has expectations, this is what happens. And I think that's why, like, Baker has been given such a long leash, is because it's like, well, what do we have to stack him up against? You know, he's inarguably the most successful quarterback that we've had since the franchise returned since '99.
Definitely.
And I think that's part of the problem, is that with the fan base, is like, you have half the fan base so dedicated to this guy just because he's better than what we had. And that's like, you know what I mean? That kind of attitude handcuffs, you know, because you want better talent. And it's like, I don't know. It's just like we've been giving him excuse after excuse. And
we have.
Yeah.
At some point, one of the two has to go. It's either going to be Stefanski or Baker, because this ain't working. You know,
I'll tell you this: Stefanski is on the clock with me, as far as I'm concerned, because it's inexplicable how we have Chubb, one of the top rushers in the league. We have one of the best lines in football, arguably the best unit in football. And the fact that you continue, and I'm talking about this is week after week after week, we're still throwing the ball. It's 1st and 10, we're throwing the ball. 2nd and 7, we're throwing the ball. 3rd and 3, we're throwing the ball. And it's like Chubb is on the sideline with an orange jacket on. You got the sign, and he had nothing to do with this, but you know, we got our backup running back taking carries, and it's like, why is Chubb not in there? They even mentioned that on ESPN football. Like, I mean, on the Monday night cast said.
Yeah, I caught that too.
I don't understand what. Like, I'm trying not to question Stefanski, but I am questioning them. You know.
I think it's like he knows that the right football call when teams load the box is to call the plays he's calling, but he's calling them in spite of knowing that his quarterback isn't making them, you know. And that's where the question comes: is he Aaron Baker out to try, or is he coaching poorly? Because I don't think he's a bad coach. I think he's a good coach, but the coaches don't continue to make the calls that he's making based off of the performance of that quarterback, you know. And when you have Chubb, like you're saying, averaging 7 to 9 yards a carry regardless of the box being stacked, it's like, what are we doing here?
You know, it's like it's one of those situations where it feels like he's being told what to do versus what he knows is the right thing to do. Despedito and the analytic department got their snake oil all drenched into this. It's mind-boggling. You know, they're going to go with the numbers, but sometimes you got to go with the gut feeling, what you see is happening. And I really feel like he wants to do something, but he can't. So to prove the analytic off is wrong, okay, well, if you guys are going to make me do this, I'm go ahead and throw it, Baker. We're going to throw 38 times, and you're injured. And I know this, but the guys the guys that have no football knowledge or sense or experience, they're telling me that I have to make you do this. So just let this plan fail.
Right. So what I'm gathering from what you're saying, Jason, is you think that the analytics have infected this team. Do I have that right?
Unequivocally, yes. We're the and I said this last week. Cleveland Browns was the first organization to be 100% analytics. All analytics. All teams use it to say, well, maybe we need to get this type of player to fit our system, whatever. But the Browns are 100%. Pete
Right.
Podesta, he was part of the Moneyball movement with the Oakland A's back in the day.
That was a good movie, by the way.
Yeah, and I still haven't seen it yet.
It is a good movie. But one of the things about being an analytical team that it depends on is consistency. Because
Right.
the numbers are counting on the players on the field doing their job. And so, like, they might be making the smart decision analytically, but they don't have the personnel to do it. If they want to be all in on analytics, they need a quarterback who's a high IQ guy that makes quick decisions, flat out. And what do we see from Baker? He holds the ball too long. He makes poor decisions.
He leaves the pocket too when he doesn't need to.
Yeah,
Too early.
And when you're
missing
an analytical
throws.
team, that's the kind of player you need if you're a team that's going off of just like grit and instinct, and that's not their style of offense. It's a very calculated offense, and that means you need to get a guy in there that's capable of doing it. And Baker's not it, and I don't know who the answer is in the draft. So the question is like, we got to start looking elsewhere, because if that's what they're going to continue to do is going by the analytics, they can't do it with Baker.
Guys, I'll take a step further. Not only, again, for those that's not familiar with the analytics talk that we're referring to, it's all about numbers. The computer tells me this is what the data says I should do in this situation. So this is telling me that there's not going to be that many defenders in this area at this part of the field. So this is where we should throw it to. Numbers, but numbers don't talk about emotion. I feel that killing my right tackle. So I feel that we should chip him with a tight end, have a fullback come in to chip him. The analytic part ain't seeing that. It's just seeing straight numbers, black and white. This is what we should do in this play, and this is what the numbers suggest. And that's the part that's missing.
So here's my biggest problem with the Browns, not specifically this season, but just in general. When they draft a quarterback, whether it was Brandon Weeden, Colt McCoy, whoever, or if they bring another quarterback in, when they just get a quarterback, I'll say it like this and keep it more expanded. What they tend to do is they try to put a square peg in a round hole, where instead of trying to tailor their offense to the quarterback's skill set, strengths, whatever word you want to use there, or they just say, nope, you're going to be in this offense whether you like it or not. I'll give you an example. With the Tennessee Titans, I know it didn't ultimately work out with Marcus Mariota and the Titans. I understand that. But when the Titans first drafted Mariota, it was working for them because they saw what Mariota did as the Oregon Ducks quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't do an identical offense, but they did something similar that he could work in.
Right.
So again, I know it didn't ultimately work out between Mariota and the Tennessee Titans, but I still think the overall concept is the same, if you will. Right.
You got to cater to your players' needs.
There you go.
That's coaching, and that's coaching 101. If I have a philosophy that I know works and is proven, this is what I've studied, this is what we're going to run, but I also notice, hey, my quarterback is injured. I'm missing some offensive linemen. I'm missing my backup running back. Maybe we need to tweak the game plan just a little to account for that. Because if I don't account for that, I'm putting not only my quarterback in a position to fail, but I'm pointing the entire team in a position to fail. And it's head scratching. Like, do you have an agenda that you're trying to prove? Because
I could draw an interesting comparison here too. Let's look at the college football coach of the year, Jim Harbaugh, just because
Right.
I'm familiar with the team. We had a guy come in, Josh Gaddis from Alabama, and Alabama had one of the highest powered offenses the country'd ever seen, and he came in and tried to do the same thing at Michigan. He was going to run speed and space.
Right.
We didn't have the 5-star athletes at wideout that could run and execute the X's and O's like they did at Alabama. And it didn't work. It flat out did not work. We looked terrible. And what happened this year is Harbaugh said, listen, I'm taking back some control of this team because we got to play to our personnel. So what did they do? They started running the 2 tight end sets that he was comfortable in at Stanford. They start running a power run game. They're doing zone running schemes, power, like Big Ten old school football, because that's what we had the personnel for. And now he's looking at a coach of the year instead of being on the hot seat and being talked about being fired. And now there's speculation he's looking at NFL jobs. So that's what we need to see from Stefanski is some kind of, this is the personnel I have. I know this is what we want to do, guys, and this is what the analytics tell us, but we've got to cater this to our team. Otherwise, we're not going to be successful.
Hey, you know what that shows is his ability to adapt to it. When you're stuck in your own way, you're going to fail. If you're so rigid, hey, it's my way, hit the highway. I'm not open to learning new things, or I'm not open to doing things the direction that the entire landscape of the league is going. Mm-hmm. You're going to fail. Bill Belichick has done that. Nick Saban has done that. Before Nick Saban, it was straight power offense. That's it. It is what it is. But what has he done? He's incorporated Young on there to run a stretch system that he's not, he doesn't run.
Right.
Bill Belichick, he lets Josh Daniels 100% run the offense. Mm-hmm. He doesn't put his hands in it and say, hey, maybe we should do this. Maybe. They're adapting. And because they have the ability to adapt, they're successful. And there's a correlation with that.
Yeah, for sure. I agree 100%. And then the other NFL news we wanted to talk about was the Antonio Brown situation that happened. Antonio Brown back in the news for quitting during the third quarter of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers game that they did ultimately end up going on to win. I don't know, guys. Where do we start with Antonio Brown? He used to be a division foe, and we've been hearing stories about this guy for years. So I wasn't surprised. I'll start there.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. And given, I get it. He's a Hall of Fame caliber player in terms of his talent, but because of all of his off-field shenanigans, I'm going to call them, to be on the safe side, I don't want him anywhere near the Hall of Fame. He does not deserve a bust in Canton. No way, no how.
What I will say is his theatrics is hair-scratching. It raises the question of, is this more of a drug matter that's going on, or is this a CTE matter? And Roger Goodell, who allegedly wants the league to be more centered around the CTE movement and concussion protocol, and we care about the players even though we add an additional game at the end of the season. That's another discussion. But CTE, and he took a brutal hit from Brissett that played with the ankles. Oh my gosh, yeah. I think he hasn't been the same since, to be if just from the eye test alone. Yeah, I think this is CTE related. But he is a Hall of Famer, unfortunately. No,
he's not.
T.O. deal with the same propaganda off the field, but skill is skill. Despite what you're doing off the field,
he's one of the best to ever do it.
Yeah, man. It's
why he's been
take that away from him.
Yeah, that's why he's been given so many chances and so many opportunities. And the thing that was interesting, and I like what you said about the way he did it, the theatrics surrounding it, because if the argument that's being made is, he had some incentives that he was near hitting, and he was upset because he was benched, and he thought he was being benched because they didn't want him to hit his incentives and what have you. Okay, if that's the case, then when you're leaving the field, don't do it by doing jumping jacks in the opposing team's end zone and getting the crowd pumped up and do all of that, because then you make it a circus. If you walked out and you're pissed off and you leave and then you make a statement like, hey, I don't think it's fair that this is what they were doing, it looks different. You know what I mean? At least then you have an argument to stand on. But now
you got an extra game.
Yeah, I'm not buying it. Like, I'm sorry, bro. Like, you have another game to play still. And you still have a whole nother quarter of play. Just because you're benched right now, like, it doesn't mean that they're not going to give you a chance. Yeah. So everything about it, it's just I'm tired of giving them excuse after excuse. I'm not going to say it's CTE because, it's impossible to diagnose that without a doctor. You know what I'm saying?
I feel it.
But it's a speculation because of,
it's the only logical reason.
Yeah, it's like we want to make it not an excuse, but it's like you want this to be something that's beyond his control and not that he's just a bad guy. Like, you want him to be like a guy that just needs some help. But
he is a bad guy, though. That's
that's the thing. It's like
damn. Yeah.
Yeah, he is a bad guy. Like, look at all the various stuff he's gotten involved in. Like, even before this, the whole fake vaccination card.
Yeah, man. Yeah. See, he thought we was gonna forget about that. Yeah.
That whole ordeal, and, like, everything with the then Oakland Raiders and the hypothermia. And didn't he like throw a bicycle at a police officer or something like that?
It wasn't that. No, he threw something, but it was at his ex-wife.
Okay,
I ain't gonna say for TV purposes.
Okay, so I was off a little bit on the details,
right?
But I had it right to a certain degree.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sure. Well, let me ask you guys this. Bruce Arians, he spoke up during a press conference, and they said, "Why are you giving him a second chance? You said last time that was his last chance, and now you're giving him another one." And basically, what he said was, I could give a shit what you think. Having Antonio Brown gives us the best chance to win, and that's why I'm doing it, and I don't care what the media thinks. And then it blew up right in his face. Like, it's not a good look on Arians right now, because people were saying, like, why are you giving him another chance? And
Arians always been that way. Arians really doesn't care about. Arians is a different type of guy. He's cut differently. He has no problem with throwing a quarterback under the bus. Any player, he'll hold them accountable. He'll throw them out. He'll air them out. He doesn't care. He doesn't care what the media says. He doesn't care what the fans think. Arians is going to do it the way the Arians want to do it. But I strongly believe that him and Tom Brady probably had a conversation behind closed doors. Arians was, he's reluctant at first, but he probably said, "Okay, I'll bring him back, but this is on you." Brady, it was one of those type of.
Yeah, Brady went to bat for him big time.
He did, and he's still going to bat for him. He still got his back, and it shows you what a class act the GOAT is. But
I don't know. I'm praying for the guy. I want what's best for everybody. Like, I don't want to see anybody fail and go through mental hardship and like any of that stuff. So like, I hope he gets help. But if you're asking me, like, does the guy deserve a chance to play in the NFL again? Like, I'm tired of it. Like, I don't see a team giving him another chance.
I don't either.
Because the only option is like giving him another incentive-laden contract. But if you give him an incentive-laden contract, he's going to give you issues about it.
Yeah, he'll just leave the field, take the shirt off, and bounce. So
nobody's going to give this guy guaranteed money.
I think he's finished. I think he's over with.
I think he's done too.
Yeah. Bruce Arians even said after that whole ordeal, like, he's no longer a Buck. But guess what? They haven't actually released him yet. He's still on the roster.
Right.
The HR guys told him, "Hey, no, he still is a Buck technically, so you can't do that, Arians." And Arians being the guy he is, he had to. That's just Arians. As far as Arians is concerned, he's finished. But HR has some contract technicalities.
Honestly, I feel like the Buccaneers need Antonio Brown right now because without AB, even if they get Leonard Fournette and Mike Evans back, I don't think they're going to be at 100%.
They're not getting Leonard back either.
Yeah, I don't think he's coming.
He's done for the season.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so
and Goodwin.
They already lost Godwin for the year. They lost Fournette. Who knows what percentage Mike Evans is going to be at when he does come back?
I got to remind you though, Tom Brady has won with a lot less than this.
That's true, but
a lot less than this.
I just don't know if he can overcome this.
How many times have we said that though? Can Brady do?
I lost too much money.
Can he overcome that? And as 7 Super Bowls later, we're all still questioning. Can he get it? You know, I'm not questioning him anymore.
I'm done with it.
Yeah, I'm done questioning Tom Brady. Whatever that man says goes.
I lost too much money to him.
Yeah,
I bet against him. I bet against LeBron, and I lose. Yeah. I'm done. That has to end.
I will say this. I personally did not admit that he was the GOAT until he left New England and did what he did with Tampa Bay last year. Because with New England, you know, you had Deflategate, you had Spygate, you had a lot of controversy.
A lot of scandals.
A lot of questions of, is it Belichick or is it Brady for his whole career?
Right. So
a lot of scandals.
So as a result, I wasn't ready to crown Tom Brady the GOAT because of, like I said, the scandals and all the controversy and all this and that.
Mm-hmm.
Once I saw him not just lead the Buccaneers to the Super Bowl and become the first team to play the Super Bowl in their own stadium, but actually win it, that's what made me say, okay, I concede. He is the GOAT.
Yeah, for me, it was the 28-3 halfway through the third quarter of the Super Bowl. I still was on, like, because I'm a Michigan guy, so I'm a Brady guy all the way. I've been Brady guy my whole life, you know. But I was always a Peyton guy too. I love Peyton Manning. Always super impressed with him. I wasn't ready to say Brady was a better quarterback than Manning even until that. But that 28-3 Super Bowl comeback was like, okay, I've never seen anybody do anything like that on the biggest stage. That's what did it for me. That's when I said, okay, this guy's the GOAT. But Josh, I think a lot of people were on the same page as you were. They were like, well, let's see him do it without Belichick. And he did it in his first year.
I agree with you. Bryan. I think the moment happened for me was the same. It was the Falcon game. But I remember having a conversation with my dad. And I remember like it was yesterday. I seen that game, and I said, you know what, Dad? Actually, before this game, I said Tom Brady better than Joe Montana. He wasn't ready to hear that.
No.
And a lot of people wasn't. But
no, people from his generation did not want to hear that.
Joe Montana, if we really sliced and diced his number, he wasn't throwing 300 a game. He wasn't throwing like 5 touchdowns a game.
No.
He wasn't losing games, and he was coming back. You know, he got his rings. He has his cachet. But overall, no, Tom Brady has the better numbers, better comebacks. It was hard to come out and say that to him because it didn't go good. He like, what the hell are you talking about? Right. But now it proves that, yes, that is the GOAT, man. And I don't think there's another quarterback alive that's going to touch that record. Mm-hmm. That's amazing.
Yeah. Nope. It's almost, in that regard, it almost feels like Steph Curry's 3-point record. Like, I don't think there's another person alive who's going to, because Steph isn't going to retire anytime soon.
Yeah, for at least 8 years.
Right. So he's going to just keep pushing that record more and more out of reach. But to bring it back to Brady, the reason I didn't want to give him full credit, I should say, for 28-3 is because I felt like the Falcons blew that game more than the Patriots won it because of absolute stupidity by Kyle Shanahan in terms of how he was calling the game offensively. And Kyle Shanahan has shown shown that on countless occasions, that when you put him in the biggest spot, he comes up small. He did in Super Bowl 53, or I'm sorry, 51 against the Patriots. And then he did it in Super Bowl 54 against the Chiefs. Why are you going away from the run game? It was working for you. And then they go, yeah, we're going to put it in Jimmy Garoppolo's hands.
It's a correlation. You onto something, actually, Josh. You are onto something. It's a correlation between him and this guy that coaches for the Cleveland Browns. They were both on the same coaching staff at the Washington Redskins when the older Shanahan was the coach, and they had
Mike
McNabb.
Shanahan.
Exactly, and there's also you had the Green Bay Packers coach. They all was on the coaching staff. They all run the same style, same system. They all do the same exact things, and it's a correlation, man.
I think Sean McVay might have been on that staff too.
I think he was too. I think they all can. They need to do a 30 for 30 on that.
Yeah. Somehow McVay is making it work with the Rams.
He's the best coach in football, if you ask me.
Say that again?
He's the best coach not named Bill Belichick in football right now. I saw a stat, and here's why. Let me give you this number. In games that LA leads in the second half, 45-0. He has never lost a game that he took a lead into the second half. That's incredible.
So
it's a team he struggles against, though.
Yeah.
In his own division.
Yeah, that's true.
Against a guy that he's familiar.
Yeah.
You see where I'm going with this, right?
I gotcha.
Yeah.
Shanahan owns him.
I think the 49ers over the past two seasons, I may have the numbers a little bit off, but I think I heard from people on First Take and other various networks that Shanahan is 5-0 against McVay. Again, crazy. I might have the numbers a little bit off, but it's somewhere in that range.
Yeah. I look at like the OBJ situation too. Like, look how seamlessly McVay fit him into that offense, immediately.
5 touchdowns.
In 6 games. Like, come on now.
6 touchdowns with the Browns in 3 years?
Yeah. And then he has 5 in his first 6 games. It's just like, but that's a guy. Fault. That's a guy who understands his personnel and how to get the most out of his players. And that's why I think he's quietly one of the best coaches in football, for sure.
Definitely, he's a genius, for sure.
Yeah. I think the Rams, I want to say they're a Super Bowl favorite, but I think they have a major, I don't want to say handicap, but I can't think of a better word than that. And that's Stafford. I can't fully trust Matt Stafford. I can't. And maybe that's because of what I've seen, during his time with the Detroit Lions. But even once he got traded to the Rams, he's never looked fully comfortable in that offense. Maybe you guys are free to disagree with me on that. But based on what I've seen on the field, purely by eye test, there have been times where it's just like Stafford looks totally lost. Like, go back and watch film from this recent game against the Ravens. I think he thought Chuck Clark played for him.
He's had some games where he's been very inconsistent. He was a heavy favorite to win MVP. So I agree, Josh, that there's been moments he hasn't looked totally comfortable. But the guy's still throwing for 55 or 4,500 yards and 38 touchdowns or whatever it is. He's up there. So his numbers aren't terrible, but I get what you're saying. The eye test, has he done enough to show that he can win a Super Bowl? And at this point, his time in Detroit, he never won nothing.
It's a coach that I think he's underrated, but he absolutely, in my opinion, might be better than the boy wonder. And that is Mike Vrabel. I think Mike Vrabel, just from a tactical standpoint, schematic standpoint, knowing his personnel, seeing anytime someone gets injured on the Titans, He's the only coach that I see that goes on the actual field. He goes there with the training staff. He makes sure that they okay because he's a player's coach. But he's the only one I've seen outsmart Bill Belichick on technicalities and had Bill Belichick frustrated. You've seen it.
Yeah.
But Mike Vrabel was a hell of a coach, man.
Yeah.
That's a good point. I hate to do this, but we do only have 14 minutes left, and we still haven't scratched the surface on the Cavs or the college football playoff. So
let's talk about college football.
Let's transition NFL, college football. Yes. Let's do our picks.
I would love to.
We'll do our picks for the CFP national title game, and then we'll do a quick Cavs preview for what's going forward.
Wait, what happened last week? Because for those that's just tuning in, we did go on record with our picks last week, and I'm just curious. I'm forgetful. I'm an old man. Just Josh, why don't you help remind us? Where do we stand at with this?
Talk to the head.
We were okay. Hey, and not only that, but it was very, very, very difficult for me to sit here and say that Georgia was going to win that game.
Yes,
but they did.
They won, unfortunately.
It happened exactly how we told you it would happen, and that's
because
Saban and Alabama are that good. They just are. And I think Georgia's got a really good team too. Generational defense. Like that defense is amazing.
Oh my God, man. I've seen a good 10. Last week I said 9. I've seen 10 NFL prospects on that defense low, man. And they got Dalvin Cook's younger brother playing running back for them.
Yeah.
Where the hell he come from? I didn't see him the first game.
Yeah, I think I saw a lot of good things from Georgia. I still think Alabama wins a close one, so I'm going to pick Alabama. The line's moving a little bit. It was at -3. Georgia was favorited, but it's moving closer to Alabama. So let's just do pick 'em. I'm picking Alabama outright. Who you got, Josh?
I know I've given Alabama crap, but first of all, no musical numbers this week. None.
Oh.
None. Nope.
But Ma,
we'll put it back. We'll put it in here in post. We're gonna put it in post anyway.
Please don't.
No.
I'll see if the producer could dig that footage up. But
so what you're saying is you're picking Alabama.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Jay, who you got?
I got Georgia.
Georgia.
So look, guys. At the start of the season, I say Alabama would, right? But off the eye test, Georgia has an agenda. They didn't celebrate after they won. It was a business as usual. Yeah. We got a game next week. And Kirby Smart, like I said last time, I won't be surprised if Kirby Smart finally best his mentor. And they have the defense. And in the SEC championship, it wasn't like they got dominated the entire game. They were up.
Right.
They were up. I think they're gonna pull it through though. I for some reason I see Georgia.
I'm rooting for Georgia. I think they got a really good shot, but at the end of the day, I think Bama wins a close one. But yeah, Josh, I'm glad you came around. But that's what good analysts do is when they see something, right? When you see something go counter to how you saw it turning out, and then you admit you were wrong, and
it's leadership.
Right.
Leadership.
Yeah, that I think part of it too is part of the reason I didn't want Alabama or Georgia is because, first of all, I guess I've been using the wrong word, and because parity, I found out means you want it to stay the same.
No, parity has changed. Parity is you got it backwards.
I don't know. Anyway. My dad was telling me last night that parity means staying the same and whatnot, but I don't know. Anyway, my overall point is I didn't want to see Georgia, Alabama again because we just saw in the SEC championship. We've seen it. We've seen it in countless other SEC championships. We saw it in the national championship just a couple years ago. So I just wanted a new matchup, something different.
Right.
And
I mean, yeah, I wanted Michigan to win big, but when I looked at the numbers, I said Georgia's a better team and Georgia's going to win.
Yeah.
I wanted Ohio State to win, and fortunately, it didn't work in our favor. So
yeah, it's part of the business, being wrong.
Though. But
that was a wild game.
According to one of our So What's the Catch colleagues, the Rose Bowl means nothing now.
It doesn't.
And that's unfortunate, man.
It doesn't, though. It's right.
Unfortunate. It doesn't. Yeah, I agree. It was dominated by Utah fans, but things like the grass, just the excitement. It's the granddaddy of them all, we all hear that. But it really doesn't it's you could put that next to the AutoZone Bowl or something.
Yeah,
what's the value in it?
It's playoff or bust for elite programs, and Ohio State's an elite program. And if they don't make the playoff, it's just meaningless. Flat out. Right. That's the and the other thing is that Bama and Georgia clearly are the two best teams in the country. Even if there was a 12-team playoff, those two teams were coming out of it.
They're still going.
I understand not wanting to see it, but at the end of the day, it's about the two best teams playing, and I think at least the college football playoff helped get it right this year. Because I think those are the two best teams, and that's who's in it. So
yeah,
I hate it. I don't want to see it. I'm with you, Josh. I would love to see anybody but the SEC start having some success, but the two best teams in the nation are there, so it's working in that regard.
Yeah.
We got 7 minutes left, though, so we got to switch over to the Cavs.
Okay.
All right. So, I mean, yesterday's loss was annoying, but Memphis is a good team. I'll give them that. But my biggest problem with the Cavs, and trust me, I'm one of the biggest Cavs fans you will find. Eventually, I want to become a full-fledged season ticket holder for them. I'm not at that point yet, even though it seems like I go to just about every home game. But my biggest problem, even though we are a top 6 seed, because our loss dropped us below Philadelphia in the standings last night to number 6, which means we're in danger of falling into the play-in tournament versus being in the actual playoffs. But we don't have enough guard depth on this team. And maybe that's because Sexton and Rubio got injured. But we're just so, forward dominant. We lack the depth at the guard position. And that's what I think is going to ultimately come back to bite us, whether it's in the actual playoffs or in the play-in tournament. Because I don't think this Cavaliers team is going anywhere in terms of falling below the cutoff for the play-in tournament, if you will. I think we're going to stay above that. I don't know about the top 6. But I think we're going to at least get into the play-in.
They did acquire a floor general, Rajon Rondo, for those that are familiar with the recent developments. But Rajon Rondo is a part of the Cavs, and he is a floor general. I think that he will get the young kids in line. He will have everybody, hey, you're supposed to be over here. He'll get after you in the huddle if it needs to be. And even when Colin Sexton comes back, he's the guy that say, hey, man, you shooting too much. Pass the ball, or we can handle this like gentlemen outside. And then come back in here, and he'll pass the ball. Because he's a non-nonsense type of guy. But he knows how to get people open, similar to Ricky Rubio, who's done for the season with torn ACL. He's a floor general.
Right.
Yeah, Sexton's done for the year with a torn meniscus, which I get what you're saying, but I think, Jason, you and I both agreed on this. I don't wish injury on anyone, obviously.
Right.
But Sexton not being there.
Yeah.
That's the best thing to happen to this team this year.
Yeah.
Hey, we said it. You said it. We didn't say it. I agree. No, I agree. You know what? It's like you losing something important that you thought was reported. I lost my favorite pair of jeans, so now the girls is not gonna like me. But I don't need those jeans for the girls to like me because I'm actually have to show other parts
Right.
to get the answer. So it's like you learning more about yourself, and the team has learned. We don't. Maybe we want him, but we don't really need him because we are in the playoff discussion.
I didn't realize you could be a comedian at the same time as being an analyst, Jason.
Yeah, I don't know. I like the Rondo move. I think it was necessary. We need depth at the point guard position. The only thing I'm not excited about is his age, and he's not going to be able to play that many minutes. So in terms of how many guard minutes we're going to have on the floor with competent point guards, we still lack a lot of depth. So, and here's the other thing. I hate to be the wet blanket here, but the Cavs have been overperforming more than any other team in the NBA. They have the best. That's just a fact. They have the best record against the spread in the NBA right now. And what that means is that they're overperforming. So this kind of regression was to be expected, especially when you have injuries. So I think that this team is leveling out a little bit. I think they're going to kind of lower back down to like a realistic range, which for me, I think is in that 8 to 10 range.
That's successful though.
Oh, yeah, still way more successful than I thought at the beginning of the year. But with all of these injuries and the Rubio news and, everything that's transpired since then, I think regression is to be expected. But I do think this team's good enough to not let it derail their entire season.
Yeah.
And I think that's what the Rondo move did, was it said, hey, you know what? We're not tanking. This isn't part of the process. Like we're out here to win games. We went out and immediately got a guy that's won on the biggest stage, and he has. So
and we gave up a bag of chips for him, I believe.
No, we didn't give him nothing. We gave up Denzel Valentine, and he's a bum from Michigan State. And
I don't even know who is that, right?
He immediately got cut after the trade to clear space, so it was just a roster dump move. But I think that this team is good enough to be into that that playoff tournament range. But I think that that's a little bit of a losing skid here is to be expected, and I would anticipate us leveling out more in the 500 range for the remainder of the year.
Yeah. So we have a difficult 6-game road trip starting on Friday in Portland.
Mm-hmm.
So this road trip goes at Portland on Friday, and then do you remember? I think it was earlier in the month of December. We had that stretch where we had 2 back-to-back.
Yeah, I thought we got this out the way.
Yep,
we got 1 minute left, Josh. So hurry up and make your point, and we're out of here.
We have to do that again because we're going Golden State, Sacramento on a back-to-back. Day off, Utah, San Antonio, Oklahoma City back-to-back.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah, so we got a little bit of a tough skid here. I say if we get through that 6-game stretch, 3-3, that'd be a big success. I would love to get through that.
Yeah, 3-3. I think we can go 4-2.
That would be huge if we could. And with everything going on, that'd be gigantic. But hey, guys, this has been really fun. It worked out great this week. We got the Rondo's first game is going to be Sunday against the
Friday
Trailblazers.
Friday. Yeah, whenever that game is.
Right. Okay. So his first game will be before our next show. So next show we'll definitely talk a little bit more about Rondo and how that's working out. But yeah, it's been fun, guys. Enjoy the college football national title game, and we'll see you over at So What's the Test Stuff.
Yep, sounds good.
Happy J5, Cap Alpha Psi, baby.
Hey, yeah, happy anniversary, guys.
Appreciate it.
All right, shout out.
All right, yo.
Later.
Later.